Once upon a time, in a crowded neighborhood near a noisy marketplace, there lived a loyal brown dog named Bruno. He belonged to a shopkeeper who owned a small grocery store at the corner of the street. Every morning before the sun rose, Bruno would sit proudly at the entrance of the shop, his tail wagging gently, his eyes alert. Bruno was not just a dog. He was a guard, a helper, and a silent servant. He barked at strangers, chased away thieves, and even carried small baskets in his mouth when the shopkeeper needed help. When children passed by, he watched them carefully. When delivery carts arrived, he sniffed every package. He worked from morning until late night without a single complaint. The shopkeeper often said, "Good dog, Bruno, you are the best." And those words meant everything to him. Bruno did not work for food alone. He worked for approval, for affection, for that small pat on the head that made his heart feel warm. Years passed, and Bruno became known as the most loyal dog in the market. People admired him. Some even brought him treats. But admiration was not rest. Praise was not comfort. As time went on, Bruno began to grow older. His once shiny coat became dull. His legs, once fast as the wind, now moved more slowly. His hearing was not as sharp, but he refused to slow down. "If I stop," he thought, "I will no longer be useful." One winter evening, a heavy storm hit the city. The rain poured like stones from the sky. The wind howled through the streets. Most people shut their doors and stayed inside, but Bruno remained outside the shop. The shopkeeper had forgotten to tie him under the roof, and though the cold rain soaked his fur and his body trembled, Bruno stayed at his post. He believed loyalty meant endurance. He believed love meant sacrifice. Hours passed. The storm grew worse. Bruno's body shivered violently, but he did not move. He told himself, a good dog never abandons his duty. The next morning, the storm had stopped. The sun rose quietly over the wet streets. Bruno tried to stand, but his legs gave way. His body was weak from the cold. He had a fever. He could barely lift his head. When the shopkeeper opened the store and saw Bruno lying there, he frowned. "What happened to you? You're becoming weak." For the first time, Bruno saw something different in his owner's eyes. Not concern, not gratitude, just disappointment. That day, the shopkeeper tied a younger, stronger dog near the entrance. Bruno was moved to the back of the store. The new dog barked loudly, ran swiftly, and impressed everyone. Customers laughed and said, "What a strong dog!" The shopkeeper smiled proudly. Bruno lay quietly in the corner, watching. His heart felt heavier than his body. For years he had given everything, his strength, his youth, his health. He believed his worth came from how much he could give. But now he understood something painful. When his strength faded, so did the attention. Days turned into weeks. Bruno slowly recovered from his illness, but he no longer rushed to the door. He no longer forced himself to prove anything. One afternoon, a little girl who often visited the shop walked to the back and saw him lying there. "Why is Bruno here?" she asked softly. "He's old now," the shopkeeper replied. "He can't guard like before." The girl knelt beside Bruno and gently stroked his head. "He's still a good dog," she said. "He doesn't need to guard to be loved." Those simple words touched something deep inside him. For the first time, Bruno realized he had been chasing approval his entire life. He had confused usefulness with value. He thought being needed was the same as being worthy. But worth is not measured by how much you can endure. It is not measured by how much you can give until you break. That evening, Bruno made a quiet decision. When the rain began to fall again, he did not step into the storm. He stayed under the shelter. When his body felt tired, he rested. When the younger dog barked wildly at every sound, Bruno remained calm. He had nothing left to prove. Slowly, something changed. The shopkeeper began to notice that Bruno's calm presence comforted customers. Children still loved him. People still smiled when they saw him, not because he guarded the door, but because he was gentle and kind. Bruno finally understood. His value was never in how fast he could run, not in how loudly he could bark, not in how much he could tolerate. His value was in who he was: loyal, loving, faithful. But loyalty should never mean losing yourself. Many people live like Bruno once did. They overwork, overgive, and exhaust themselves just to feel needed. They believe if they stop, they will be replaced. They think their worth depends on performance. But the truth is simple and powerful. If someone only values you for what you can do, they never truly valued you at all. Your worth does not decrease when your strength does. You do not have to stand in every storm to prove your loyalty. You do not have to suffer to deserve love. Bruno spent years guarding a door, but the greatest lesson he learned was this: a loyal heart is precious, but it must also protect itself.